This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a single software platform that enables your trainers to deliver consistent, high-quality workouts, track client progress, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to poor client experiences, inaccurate tracking, and prevents you from growing your business, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal understand your challenge and have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. You can integrate with MindBody, manage a standardized exercise and workout library for your team, track workouts effectively, and produce client reports at the click of a button. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. Starting with Strength Portal is super simple. Number 1, sign up for the best package for your business. Number 2, let Strength Portal take the load off and help onboard your business onto the platform. And number 3, start delivering consistent workout experiences and scale your business to the next level. To help support the podcast, please go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business and sign up now so you can stop feeling frustrated about your business and start to scale your business to its true potential. Go to strengthportal.com/high intensity business. Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, the podcast. We discuss high intensity strength training and provide you with the tools, tactics, and strategies to help you grow your strength training or HIIT business. Now, before we get started, just want to mention you can go and get free resources to help you grow your HIIT business, including sales presentations, PDFs on how to get clients and attract great trainers, financial forecasting and cash flow templates, and many more resources and transcripts over at highintensitybusiness.com/free. That's highintensitybusiness.com/free. Today, the topic today is how to run small group training with Mike Lepowski. This is episode 388. And obviously today's guest is Mike Lepowski. Mike, great to see you again. Thank you for coming onto the show.
Yeah, happy to be here as always.
So really excited to talk about this with you today, because I know that small group or group training is becoming quite popular among our colleagues. I know a few HIIT business owners who are talking about integrating it into their business. I really enjoyed your episode on TNT, the podcast Truth Not Trends, which I'll link to that episode because I think it gives even more information on how to implement small group as well as supplements in your business. And as I was saying, you probably got recorded. I think those guys are amazing. They're definitely going to put me out of business. So I'm just enjoying my time in the limelight.
There's room for all of us.
Yeah. So I thought I'd kick off with a few definitions. So when we talk about small group training, what is that exactly, Mike, at your business?
Well, for our business, it's maintaining approximately a 1-to-4 ratio of trainer to trainees. So we find that we've always done well with doing the 1-on-2 setup, and we've just tried to expand it from there. At one point, I think we expanded it a little bit too much, and that also helped us to redefine for us what is small group, because I think that just within the fitness industry in general, you hear about group training, and I guess a lot of people will have different ideas just pop into their head. You may have the room filled with spinning bikes and there's 30 of them and one instructor. That might be the boot camp where there's one instructor to 50 people, and you never know who's in the room and who's actually doing things correctly. So for us, we knew that was never an option. I mean, we are a HIIT-based business. Our roots are in personal training. And so we did explore doing, say, larger groups, again, by our definition of a larger group, which was upwards of 12 people. And logistically, we just found that it was a little difficult to manage. We did a good job of managing it, but it was like a lot of controlled chaos. I mean, we would have 3 trainers, 12 clients. So you got a room full of about 15 people. And, we made it work, but we found that it was almost too much because it took away from some of the personalized element that we always wanted to maintain. So with that being said, we scaled it back. We always had in place that 1-to-4 ratio, but we said we're going to, normally cap these classes at about 4 people. We will occasionally push it to maybe 6 people, and in which case we normally have another trainer in there who's floating as an assistant. So that's more or less how we set up our small group personal training, and it's been working well since.
So just to clarify, when you've got 6, how many trainers are operating when you've got 6 clients?
Typically there's 2.
Okay, and then 1 floating, potentially.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
So if, everybody wants to sort of imagine this, I use a sport analogy. Imagine baseball, right? You have the center fielder, and the center fielder controls the outfield. They're telling, the right fielder and the left fielder, hey, I got the ball. Don't worry, I got this. That's yours. And so we approach the group training in a very similar fashion. We have the person who is the conductor, if you will. In fact, on the TNT podcast, that's how Corey Beth described it. I thought it was like the perfect analogy, better than the one I'm using now. You have
should just have her do all your podcasts.
I really should. Thankfully, we work good as a team, so she'll keep me around. But basically, you have that person who acts as the center fielder, the conductor, right? The person who is really seeing how the workout is designed, where people are supposed to be going next, directing the room, if you will, being very general in the instruction. Whereas the floater is the person who is coming around and making sure that, if somebody needs that extra assistance in terms of some manipulation in their form, little assistance on completing a rep, maybe being even more in tune with the weight selection than the center fielder, if you will. That person plays a huge role in this as well. So we enjoy the classes probably most where we do have 2 instructors. And if they're 2 really seasoned instructors, like for myself and my studio operations leader, Heidi, oftentimes we're not afraid to push a class to 7 or 8 people, because she is excellent as the center fielder. And because of, my propensity for really wanting to get granular with people about form and, being very specific in weight load selection, I work well as the floater. And so we just bounce back and forth off of each other, and it makes for a really fun class. It makes for, though, a very productive class. And, that is the ideal scenario in my mind.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So what I normally do with stuff like this is I like to kind of get everyone a little bit excited and talk about the rewards, the opportunities, the potential with this. So I want to talk about a little bit about the why, why is this valuable? And I can just say from speaking to other guests of the podcast, Discover Strength, obviously I had Luke on the podcast a lot, and in the membership talk about how they do group. And I know that at least last time I checked with him, it was 50% of their training volume. It's a huge part of their business. Can you talk about how effective it's been for you? I mean, we don't necessarily have to just, go into numbers and things like that, but just maybe in terms of the number of workouts that you do or the percentage of your business that's become group.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have a franchise event coming up in the next month, and we were recently going over the numbers. So this is perfect timing.
Oh, great.
Our group training comprises, at least in our studio specifically, because there are others, but in ours specifically, it is 80% of our business. In one of our other facilities, it is 100% of their business. They do no personal training at all. It is only group training. And in the other one, they're at about 90%. So again, on average, right, for Pure Physique, 90% of our business is based on group. And, I think that there's 2 advantages to it. I mean, there you have the consumer side, and then you have us as the business owner. And I think for the consumer, the benefit of this is many of them are looking for scenarios in which they can go do their exercise, but have it be an enjoyable experience. Yet the other component to that is so many of them go after that enjoyable exercise experience and wind up hurt, wind up doing things that are not incredibly productive. So they wind up frustrated. And so for us, this is that perfect blend of there's just enough people in the room to keep that energy high. And yet the level of instruction is still detailed enough and the workout is effective enough because it is grounded in HIIT that people are seeing results. They enjoy that 30 minutes that they're with us, those 2, maybe 3 times per week, and it keeps them coming back. And I've just found that personally in the past, as the instructor, but also as the owner, I would notice people feeling as though things were getting stale when it came to personal training. And, because you have enough of those like one-on-one interactions with people. And, for some situations, it becomes like, the old man and the old wife, right? Who they're just kind of like living in the same space together, but there's really not much there. And I've felt that as a trainer to have a client be around for years and years and years and years and years. And you're kind of doing the same thing over and over. And at a certain point, things can begin to feel stale. And of course, the ways around that are to manipulate your training and be constantly evolving and looking for ways to improve your service. And I get that. But one of the easiest ways to not have to do all that and yet to keep that person fully engaged is group. So when we started implementing this, we had a lot of people transition from their personal training to their group training. And I truly do believe that is what kept a lot of them around, because for many, as we all know, unless your client base is extremely wealthy, at some point, if somebody feels like their workouts are starting to feel a little stale, things just don't feel, like they did in the beginning, then that excuse of, well, it's not really worth it anymore starts to enter their mind. Like I'm paying a lot of money for this service, but it's not the same service that I felt like I was experiencing in the beginning. It might not be because of anything that you've done as the instructor. It's natural. I think we all do things, whether they're hobbies or certain events, that at a certain point after doing them for years and years and years, it's like a lot of the excitement starts to go away. And you can know that there's great value in that thing that you're doing, but it just doesn't hold the same importance as it once did. And with the transition for many people from the personal training to the group, well, now you're sharing in the experience with other people. And there is something to be said for that social element of sharing in the suck, if you will. It's not the most enjoyable thing going through a high intensity training workout, but when you are sharing that experience with other people, it makes a difference, which is why I feel things like, if you've heard of Tough Mudder or the Spartan race.
Oh, it's all taking off. Yeah.
It's it's that same mentality that, hey guys, this sucks for all of us, but we're in this together. Let's go team. And we really thrive in that team environment, personally as a business, but I think a lot of us as individuals, we enjoy being around other people, even if we're not like the biggest people person. It's just that knowing there's others out there that are sharing that experience with us, I think makes a big difference. So that, is a large part of it. On the consumer side, it's that in between of big box or big boot camp experience, but with that nice blend of personalized service, personal training, done in an intelligent way. And, just interestingly enough, we very recently had an influx of clients who had left come back. Not that we lose tons of clients, but like we had people who had been gone literally for years, who have now come back simply because they realize like this resistance training part, I didn't realize how much I really needed it. Because you get those people who in their mind, I need to try something else. I think I'm just going to do my Peloton and just try to, do more cardio and burn more fat. And they go about that approach, and all of a sudden they realize, like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how much what I was doing in that resistance training studio was helping me. And I need that part back in my life. And I think for a lot of them, the group is a nice re-entry point, because it is a little bit lower price than a one-on-one personal training service. And because of that, people can more easily justify paying that rate several times a week and doing that for months on end. Whereas sometimes I believe that with personal training, again, this was just my experience early on, even if you're a top trainer and people love you and love what you're delivering, yes, we always tell them, hey, if it's important enough, you'll find a way. But for some people, life does get in the way, finances do get in the way. And if we can just find some way to help them circumvent that and have it not be as great of a stumbling block, then awesome. And that's what group has done for us.
Amazing. Yeah. Just a couple comments I want to make on what you said there. Got me thinking I always remember Luke saying the reason they decided to do it, or one of the reasons, was to try and democratize personal training. A lot of us are targeting high income, busy professionals, and maybe we want to help more people than that. We don't like it when someone comes in for a free workout and they can't afford a one-on-one session. And if it's once a week, one-on-one is the most affordable thing you offer and they can't afford it, it sucks a little bit, because you want to be able to help that person. But you also want to build a good business and be able to pay your trainers well and all of that. So small group training is really the perfect answer for that, right? Because it's much more affordable. And the cool thing is, if you price it right, you can still make sure you're generating the same, if not more, revenue per hour in your business. And you're able to help a lot more people. And it got me thinking, listening to you there's still such a small percentage of people that engage in resistance training. Like last time I checked, I don't know what the stats are in America, but last time I saw it was like single-digit percentage. And this could be a way of engaging much more people in this really, really healthy activity, right? So that's just some comments I wanted to make off the back of what you said. I heard you also say you kind of pivoted to this in light of what you were seeing around the social benefits of certain fitness business models out there, like CrossFit and boot camps and things like this. But the difference here, and what I really like about this, is we're not compromising here on high intensity training principles. Like you can have the best of both, right? Yeah, sure. There's a little bit less personalization and one-on-one. That's the downside. But the other side of it is you're able to provide this at a much lower price point. You're able to get a lot more people involved. They're still going to get, like you've spoke about on the podcast with TNT, they're still going to get great benefits, right? They don't need it to be perfect. We know from the research, the most recent resistance training research, that you really don't have to do this all that well in order to get good health benefits from it. And that's not to say you aren't doing it well when you're doing group. It's just maybe not as optimal as one-on-one in terms of intensity and stuff like that. But yeah, as long as you're doing it safely, like it's still going to be very effective. So yeah, awesome.
So let me a lot in what you said, I have a lot of thoughts. So let me just
please do
quickly organize them. You mentioned, why Discover Strength did it, and it was to democratize their training. And so I think that brings up a very important point, and one that we came to the realization of, which is the reason why such a large percentage of our business is group based, which is, who is your target market? So if you're to tell me that your target market is that busy professional who is making six figures, mid six figures, like it makes sense to do personal training. But in our area, within our demographic, that's not who we are serving. We have our avatar built out. Her name is Tara, and we know her. Like we know her. In fact, Corey Beth is pretty much a Tara. A lot of our instructors, our female instructors, are Taras, in the sense that they are these moms who are in that 35 to 55-year-old range, really 35 to 45. But they like nice things. They really value their body. They value social components. Like they are very big on being around their girlfriends and having fun. And so group is far more fitting for them. And that has almost always been our demographic, our primary demographic. So group is just a better fit for them. Whereas, see, for us, it's the opposite. It's not personal training first, then group. It's group, and then the person who doesn't necessarily fit into group has the option of personal training, and we'll fit that person in between the group sessions. So this sort of does spill a little bit over into the application and setup of this that we were talking about before we jumped on. But for us, we will run about between 10 and 12 of these group sessions throughout the day. And, it's very heavy in the morning on it, a little bit lighter in the afternoon. But the point being is that dominates the schedule. And then in between those points is where we can fit in personal training, because that person does have more flexibility. That person can come at a different time, doesn't have to necessarily command the most popular time spot that is needed by all of these moms who are putting their kids on the bus at the same time, getting them off the bus at the same time, or going to work at the same time, coming home from work at the same time. See, so we really built the group offering and just the way that we set up our business to service her. That's who we're concerned with. And that's why I said in the facility that's doing 100% group training, I mean, it is nothing but Taras throughout that facility. I mean, every single one of them is almost a carbon copy of the last.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's crazy. And just, I guess it makes sense to start going to the how, right? How is this delivered? Excuse me, I got a little bit of a cold if my voice sounds a bit funny. You talked there about scheduling, right? And really designing the business around Tara. And how do you schedule small group? Do you just have 1 hour blocks like all the way throughout the week at the peak times when they want to work out? Is that how it works? And then the clients will just obviously select the block that's best for them? Because obviously because in my mind, it's slightly less flexible than, maybe not in your particular business, but for most of us, than a one-on-one where they could, almost select any time during a week that's available. Whereas obviously with group, it has to be kind of preset because you've got multiple people, if I'm getting that right. So how do you manage that?
Well, like probably many of your listeners, we utilize MindBody for all of our scheduling. So we have set up in MindBody, the ideal workout times. Some of it we have over the years. We have surveyed our clients to find out what are the best times for them. We know that, like most of us, right, our day is split. You have your morning crowd, whether that's early morning or even, mid-morning, and then you have your afternoon, after work crowd. And so we targeted the best times. We've made adjustments along the way, never anything too dramatic. It's remained relatively the same year over year, but we've ironed out a block of 30 minutes for each class. And then we will typically leave 15 minutes on the back end. So that this way that instructor has time for those people to exit out, has time to wipe down equipment, tidy up, and get mentally prepared for the next group coming in. So we like doing it on those 45-minute blocks. So for example, we will start tomorrow at 5:30 a.m. So that group will go from 5:30 to 6. The next group's coming in at 6:15. The next group after that's coming in at 7. And then that one we will back up with a 7:30. And then we'll have break until, 8:15. But between 7:30 and 8:15, we may have a personal training client who's coming in and taking up that block, right? And this is just basically how we set it up throughout the entire day. The number of groups that we've arrived at has been progressive. It's evolved, I should say, over time. meaning, you do not want to throw out every conceivable available time slot. It's always been a matter of, hey, let's work on filling this block before we consider adding another time. And that's worked out pretty well. So that this way we know, okay, we have this group that, hey, they are almost locked in. So we do give people the opportunity to schedule themselves. But as you know, most of us enjoy living a life where our schedule is kind of the same, at least Monday through Friday. And it makes it a lot easier to just know that every, say, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I always have this standing appointment at 7 a.m. for my group resistance training. And that's what a lot of our clients will do, is they will just kind of lock themselves into a pattern of these days, this time, and do that moving forward. If we start to accumulate a wait list, that's when we're looking at it and saying, hey, do we have a floater available to assist with this class? Or is that a trainer who is capable of working with 5 people instead of just 4? So I would rather approach it from the standpoint of let's fill out a time and maybe even work on adding the extra 1 or 2 people into that block versus opening up a brand new block altogether. Mm-hmm. And over time, you just wind up getting enough demand to warrant opening up that next block. And so that is sort of like the game that you're playing in terms of scheduling and getting people set up on a consistent schedule.
How would you, if you weren't like, I'm just thinking about ourselves, like, because we're going to be doing it, but we're kind of just doing the planning stages. And I'm kind of always been of the mindset, like, I'm not going to do much at all. I don't know what you think of this, Mike. You probably disagree with me. I'm not going to do much planning at all until we actually have someone say, yes, sign me up. Like, yeah, I'll do that, and then we'll go, okay, well, what time works best for you? And we'll try and make sure it aligns with a peak time. So it's likely that we'd have other people, and then we'd schedule it and then go from there. I'm not going to sit down and go, well, that's a lie, actually. Like we have sort of thought about, okay, we could do this maybe 3 or 4 times during a week. Because right now, this is a whole nother conversation, but our times are quite constrained because of my commitments and my trainers' availability. So we don't have as much availability as we'd like. So we've got to be a little bit selective about that. But how would you start out just in terms of planning? Would you just look at, okay, I'm going to look at like 3 or 4 times during a week? Let's say, obviously, if we're not just purely group, we do a lot of one-on-one as well. So if we're looking at that hybrid, how would you start planning that? What pre-work would you do?
Well, first of all, I'm not shooting you down because, our approach is not terribly different. I mean, Corey Beth is the better one to speak about this, and she does the sales, but essentially the sale is made, and then it's let's go figure out where we're going to stick.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I operate in every area of my life.
Yeah, and that's quite all right. I mean, we'd rather, we don't want to bring up another reason why somebody can't move forward or shouldn't move forward, right? People have enough excuses as it is as to why this is going to be too difficult to fit into their life. So we would rather, let's get the yes, and then let's figure out the rest. And that's been our approach. And the way that we positioned it too is, listen, sometimes you do have to give a little in order to get what you want in the end. And what I mean by that is, you may get some people coming in and the time that they're looking for might not be the time where you're able to offer this, but you could see that time becoming an opportunity to get more people in. And so we've had those scenarios where we've had, 2 people. We started with 2 people in a particular time block. And no, we were not maxing out our profit margins by doing that, but longer term thinking, it was, hey, we got them in. Let's get them going. Let's keep them happy. And then let's just be conscientious that now this time spot is available. And as new people come in, we can say we have this slot available. And that is mainly how we have approached it, because Corey Beth will look at the schedule, or we'll confer with our studio operations leader and say, hey, I got this person. This is the time that they're looking for. I see you're booked up. Like, what else can we do? And, that's where a little communication comes in. It might be, well, you know what, that group there's already 5 people in there. It's a pretty easy group. Like, they're self-sufficient. So go ahead and throw them in. And, we'll pull in a trainer to get that person going properly their first day, or we'll do just a separate onboarding orientation with them to make sure that they're good to go, and then integrate them into that group. So you have the opportunity to massage your schedule, so to speak. You may say, hey, I don't have any spots. Can we find another one for you? And listen, if at that point you've done a good job on the sales side and the person recognizes, like, I need to do this, I need to figure it out, well, then you are putting a little bit of the onus on them. You're asking them, hey, meet us halfway. We know we're going to be able to help provide you this benefit and get you this result, but you got to be in the studio. Like, you have to be there in order for that to happen. So where else can we look on your schedule to make this work? And we'll oftentimes go down that road. And so there is no perfect way to do it. And oftentimes, if somebody has been predominantly a one-on-one personal training based business, and now you're going to transition to group, you just do it slowly. Like, that is my biggest piece of advice. We did not change over, in a single day and go, oh, let's just wipe away all of our personal training spots and, put group there instead. What we did is we targeted about 3 to 4 ideal times, blocked those out, and waited for that to build up. And then, once that filled, then we did the next block of times, and so on and so forth.
Oh, no. Yeah. I think it's a good time to maybe highlight a mistake people might make in trying to perhaps be too flexible for people. I remember when we started and we were first, booking free workouts and giving people times. And I was sometimes giving them so many times that they were like, do you actually train anyone? And I realized, oh yeah, I should know this. Scarcity and exclusivity are powerful selling skills. And so now I'm like, I usually offer someone free times. I'll offer up the free times that I know are going to suit their schedule based on some discussion we've had. And that works well. This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a software platform that enables you to track workouts, deliver consistent high-quality client experiences, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to inconsistent workout experiences and stifles your business growth, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. To help support the podcast, go to strengthportal.com/high-intensity business and sign up for your ideal package now. That's strengthportal.com/high-intensity business. And now back to the episode. And it's funny to me because we're still very small, we're still growing. And I hear people say, oh, you're probably booked up then, aren't you? And in my head, I'm like, no, we're not. We're not booked up then, but I'm not going to say we're not, because it's not a question. It's like a rhetorical question. They haven't asked me if I am. I'm wondering if there's a mistake made when people, let's say they select times for this, then they have a client who's like, oh, can you push that back an hour? And then they start to really create this chaotic schedule, trying to serve people, trying to be too flexible, which is going to lead to, I think, a lot of burnout for people, where they've got sessions all over the place and it's not enough, blocking time for these things. So I do think you have to kind of decide on, like you said, 3 or 4 times, and then stand your ground a little bit and realize that if you can't make it work for someone, you probably should just let that person go and help the next person. Would you agree with that? Even if you're just getting started?
No, 100%. And I believe you're right, with regards to scarcity, and you don't want people to, you know, feel like, well, what kind of operation is this? You know, like they got nothing going on, and you don't want to give the wrong impression because, you know, first, you are good at what you do, and you know what you do is valuable, and they really do need it. So we always have to be careful of how we position ourselves in the market, and you know, the message that we're conveying to people about who we are, or what our business is, in terms of its value, right? So that's just, again, a little aside, but I do think that, yeah, you have to stand your ground. You have to really be bought in to this idea that, you know what, we're really going to go with this group thing. Maybe even if it's not going to be your 80% of your business, even if it's going to be 50% of your business, you really do need to be bought in and say, hey, I'm going to put my focus on growing this. And you can't grow that if you are constantly compromising with your times.
Yeah.
And, you know, it would be very easy to say, oh, right now, like, we only have this one person who's signed up for this group spot, and I have this personal training client who really wants that spot. You know, you kind of have to stand your ground and say, hey, I'm committed to growing that time spot. So you have to approach it from the mindset of, that spot is already taken. Yeah. That spot is full. And that's what you're setting your attention around.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like I've developed so much more confidence in what we do over the last few weeks, because I finally really found people who are just so right for this, you know, so in terms of, you know, when you really land on, and you know, much of what you've taught me, Mike, you know, you really land on your target market, and you really try and speak to those people as often as possible, and realize that they don't think you're expensive. You know, they love what you do, they value it so highly. And then you realize, wow, I really do have something amazing to offer, and I can be selective, you know. And I think at the start, it was even someone like me who, you know, I've been in sales for a while. I speak with people like you and Luke and our colleagues all the time. I still had that challenge in the very beginning about almost wanting to see if I could serve everyone, you know, and almost coming across probably in some sales interactions a little bit desperate, you know, and only after some experience and really honing our targeting did I realize, oh no, actually, we can't serve actually that many people, because, you know, our studios have limits in their capacity. And so we don't even need all these people, you know, we just need the right people. So just moving more into, I guess, how we do this, I think one of the key questions we need to cover, and is probably spend the rest of the time together doing this, is how do you actually do this, right? Because I remember Luke telling me, it's like, you know, the trainers have to have their heads on a swivel, right? You are taking multitasking to another level, and it's intense, and I'm sure it's very draining. It's a tiring activity, right? So how do you, as a trainer, and how do you teach your traders to actually be able to deliver these types of group workouts? What are the, I don't know, top 3 kind of principles that they have to become good at in order to be able to do this well?
Yeah, well, you brought up one really good point, and I'm kind of chuckling to myself about this, about, you know, multitasking. And we know that as men, we tend not to be the best at this component. And we have sat down with our team, and we have, you know, a number of different categories where we'll say, hey, can you rate yourself in this category, right? Where are your strong suits? Are you, you know, very technical? Are you a really good encourager? Are you good at organizing and moving people around, right? Are you a good conductor? And so we had this list. I can't remember what like all 7 of them were, but just about every of our female trainers, who most of whom are moms, scored super high on the conducting part, meaning that multitasking component of letting people know, this is where you're going next. This is where you're going to be. And really like showing people, because that's what they do all day. I mean, I could, you know, I have a woman in the room next door who, this is what she does all day. She multitasks. And, you know, if you've ever heard of that, it's a really funny meme that I had seen once. It was a box, and it had like a single ball bouncing around in it. And it said, you know, this is a man's brain. And then next to it was a box with 30 balls in it, pinball flappers, and all the other things. And it was like, and this is a woman's brain in the same moment, right?
Yes.
And it's true. So for us, it is being able to be a good conductor is one of the probably the tougher things for some of the trainers to get acclimated to. As I said, if I start going down that list, a lot of the components that are needed to be able to do this are not different from being a very good personal trainer. You need to be technical. You need to try to be as precise as possible with weight selection, obviously with setup of equipment, being able to encourage somebody to keep going, right? To be that cheerleader, if you will, in your own way, because everybody is going to be a little bit different in their personality and their application, and that's fine. You don't have to be any one type of trainer to be successful, even in group. But then you have to really start working on developing that conductor side. And that is very similar to what Luke was saying, like having your head on a swivel. That's actually a term we use all the time as well. You're constantly scanning the room. You're never just fixated on one person. You need to be able to scan the room. And if, I could be at the front of the room, but I'm still scanning the back of the room and looking for anything that needs to be corrected with that person. I do not need at this point, at least in my career, I don't need to stand on top of them to recognize. I mean, you could walk into any box gym across the world right now and just look into the weight section, and you can automatically pinpoint who is doing what wrong, which is probably just about everybody. So maybe that's not such a tough thing to do. But my point being is that sometimes I feel we as personal training instructors feel like we have to be on top of people in order to be able to look for discrepancies in their form or to provide instruction. It's like you don't. And that's the main thing that we have to try to teach our trainers is, hey, you are constantly scanning. The same thing you trained to scan for when you're standing next to somebody is the same thing that you're doing when you're 15 feet from that person. And that's all it is. It's constantly scanning and making sure that people are set up properly, that they're keeping within the proper cadence, that you're giving the nuanced instruction as to how they may be able to feel that exercise a little bit more. And then the next part is being proactive. See, because depending upon how you structure your workout, for ours, the workout it's on the board and it is the same workout for everybody, just with the only difference being we are going to change out exercises for people who have any limitations that do not allow them to do that exercise. Other than that, everybody is following the same format.
Is that being done in that 15-minute gap? I'm just curious when you find the time to tailor for those specific individuals.
Oh, in the midst of the workout.
Oh, it's on the fly.
It's on the fly.
Okay. So they've got to have that knowledge, that expertise to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but that's part of what goes into the training as well. So when we're onboarding a trainer and educating a trainer, it's pinpointing, hey, these are the primary exercises or primary areas of the body where you're going to find people saying, I can't do that, or this gives me pain. So here are going to be your swaps. Here are going to be the thing. So the trainers already come in with some idea of what they're going to need to change for that particular individual. So it doesn't make it very difficult. And you got to keep in mind that tends to be a small percentage of the people in the room. So you're going to have classes where you have nobody that you have to make any changes for. Then you might have one class where 2 people require it. Okay. And that's fine. It's easy enough and simple enough because for the most part, they're exercises that we're going to be doing in another workout anyway. So it's like that person just might have to do that particular exercise more frequently because they can't do the alternative of it. So just as a quick example, say it's overhead presses. Somebody says, I really can't do this. It really bothers my rotator cuff. It's like, okay, hey, let's keep you off of that. Let's just have you do dumbbell front raises. Perfect. And that person now also knows that when they come into, let's say, another group with another trainer it's not one of these things where, oh, you don't know me. Like, how can you not, accommodate me? It's more like letting the trainer know, oh, just so you know, I don't do that one. When we get around to it, I do front raises instead. Awesome.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be, I think we think sometimes we have to be so on top of it. And in many ways we do. I'm not saying that you don't have to be on top of it, but what I mean is that there is room to put some of the responsibility on your clients, which I think a lot of times as for personal training, we're afraid to do because this is supposed to be such a personalized service. But yet, if you went into one of those big boot camps, you have people doing this all the time because the instructor is never instructing them one-on-one, ever. So they take it upon themselves, but yet it doesn't keep them from coming back week after week after week.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. Do you have that happen a lot where people become, obviously they understand, they know their workout, they know what they can't do, and they'll just take ownership of that and tell you? Does that happen a lot?
Yeah. It actually happens a lot more than you would imagine. Yeah. Because there's been times where I've taken over a group for an instructor who, was going to be away that day, and I'm with a group of people that I've never met before.
Yeah, that's right. So you need them to.
I've never met them, some of these clients. And so now I'm running them through the work, and they're like, oh, Luke puts me at this, or Heidi, usually has me do this instead. I'm like, cool. And I think also in terms of like, as a trainer, your posture, I don't take that as, oh my gosh, I should have known that. Like, how did I not know that? Don't get me wrong. Our trainers would be good about leaving notes for other trainers about people specifically, especially if they know they're going to be working with this person for a long time. I guess everybody assumes because I'm the owner, developer of this thing. Don't worry. Mike doesn't need to know. He'll figure it out. And that is often what happens is I just kind of go in and I'm like, yeah, I know how to handle this situation. I've seen this a million times. And that's not a pat on the back. It's just the reality. Like, people just assume like you're the owner, you're the guy, so you probably know what you're doing, right? And so, but I'm always open to saying, oh, that's what she has you do. Perfect. All right, let's do this then, and make those adjustments. And as I said, it makes it easier, and that adds to the flavor, if you will, of the group, right? People are not getting hyper offended or something because you didn't know exactly what setting they were supposed to be on, or you weren't aware that, hey, Lawrence, I've told you a million times, I can't do that. It's like, people realize like, it's part of the game. It's part of the program. Like, you're going to take some ownership, and don't we want people to take some ownership over not necessarily taking over their workout, but like ownership over it, and saying like, hey, you realize like that's not the best thing for you to do. And you know that. So, also be smart.
Yeah. Yeah. And from what I remember you saying to me before, you're not being too focused on tracking. What are you tracking, if anything, during these workouts?
We are not tracking anything during the workout because it would just be mission impossible as far as trying to keep tabs on these things. The way that we've approached it, though, is if we do have certain clients who are equal in stature, strength, and we're doing something where we need to pair people together because they're going to be going back and forth between the same two exercises, we always need to focus on being within a range. So we talk about this a lot in our team meetings and stuff. It's about being in range, and we'll have specific discussions around specific routines that we do, because we could say, hey, in this routine, we know a person's general weight range that's going to get them to that point of momentary muscular failure, or at least within a rep, or at worst 2. I mean, nobody's usually any worse than that. You're going to use X amount, but here's how this changes for this routine. That range for that person is going to go up 10%. So just keep that in mind as you're setting weights for people or selecting weights for people. And a lot of it is, week to week instruction with the instructors to just be constantly reminding, hey, this is the routine that we're doing. This is how you're going to have to make adjustments to weight selection, because that's really the only change, right? People's seat settings don't change. Not unless it's somebody who lost a ton of weight and now, you have to bring the seat forward one more notch. So since that is pretty much the same every single time, the only adjustments are weight load. And the end goal is to always get them to fatigue, right? Help them get to that deep level of fatigue. And you can only do that if you're doing a good job with weight selection. And it's really simple. No different than you do in personal training. If you misselect a weight for somebody and you recognize within the first 2 reps, oh my gosh, that's way too light, they're going to cruise, put it down, move the pin, and keep going, right? Like, as instructors, we should be seasoned enough and have enough experience to just know and recognize that there are times where it's okay to stop the set. Because again, we're not worried about tracking. Did they do 8 perfect reps over the course of that 1 minute? We're just looking at the end goal and saying, did we get them to fatigue?
Yeah. What do you do if someone just gives in? You know what I mean? Like, you're saying to them, well, hey, you're not tracking this, so we are helping you get to momentary muscular failure or fatigue, and you get some people are 3 or 4 reps in reserve, and they'll just say, no, I've had enough, I'm done. Do you just say, okay, great, no problem, move on to the next exercise?
Yeah, you have to meet people where they're at.
Yeah,
meet people where they're at, and the way that you should probably position this in your mind is, well, this person wouldn't even train that hard if they were on their own. So they
wouldn't train at all, probably.
True. So the value in what you're providing, even though in your mind as the instructor, like, oh man, they're not there. There's so much more they could do. There's so much more they could get out of it. Well, it's not about what you want for them. It's, what they want for themselves. And, the opposite holds true as well. We've had people who we're trying to sometimes hold them back because, they're so focused on like running through a wall that you almost have to save them from themselves at times. And I don't mean necessarily about going to failure, but I mean like they're charging towards failure, but now like they're so hyper focused on still going and getting that next rep that, their form gets disrupted. And, you have to help them to recognize like, hey, you know what, it might actually be better if we scale this back 10 pounds and, just work to that fatigue or, work on this component. So that is the professional side of being a trainer, which I know I'm preaching to the choir to everybody out there, but now it's taking these things that we know that we've experienced in these one-on-one settings and simply applying it to group. So in group, you are managing that person who's giving up with 4 reps in reserve. You're also being weary of that person who you don't really have to worry about them because they'll just run through a wall, whether you tell them to or not, and then everybody who falls in between.
Yeah. And just while we've got a few more minutes here, Mike, I'd love for you to just paint the picture for us of what it looks like, from start to finish when a trainer is running a group training session at Pure Physique. What does that look like? I know it's hard about actually doing it in front of us right now, but if you could just describe what that looks like from start to finish, that would be, and I can kind of chime in with questions for clarity. Yeah,
sure. The way that it would look is that group comes in, they're ready for their workout. The trainer, first thing that they're doing, calling out, Lawrence, you're going to be starting on number 1.
Got it.
John, you're going to be starting on number 2. Beth, you're going to be on number 3. And
are your machines numbered? Are they?
No, not machines. But what we do is on our board.
Got it. Okay.
And what we do is a lot of times we will pair agonist and antagonist exercises or upper and lower body exercises. So what we'll do is we'll call each pair by a number. And, it's like, Lawrence, you're going on pull down and you're going to be alternating that with your leg curl. And so we'll do this for everybody who came in for that group. And then we are starting everything at the same time. So they've already been provided the instruction on the workout for that day, how it's going to be executed, what the cadence is for the repetitions, how long each set's going to be. If it's something that we are, manipulating some variable, say we're doing zone training that day, we even keep up on the board, like what range of motion are you starting at first, second? So like we try to provide them as much information as is necessary about the workout in terms of exercises, order. I mean, some things they're like, what's that exercise? Because we'll use shorthand to be able to fit everything on the board. But the point is that the board is there. The board is there. And that is something that we took straight from CrossFit. You walk in, you have your WOD, your workout of the day. It's on the board, so you know what you're doing. There's no surprises. It's the same thing in this scenario. We want people, especially because you do have those people who, like we said, at some point become self-sufficient. And I have one client in mind right now, Jean, right? The woman could work out herself. She doesn't necessarily need us at this point. It's like she could tell other clients what exercise they're going to next. And sometimes she does. And
I love Jean.
Yeah, I love Jean too. I mean, when I jump into a class, I love being in class with Jean because like I could just sit back and listen to her telling that person who's like, hey, Heidi, what exercise is that I'm supposed to go to? And she's like, you're going to the leg extension. That's the leg extension. Like, so it's awesome because you do have people like that who have been around long enough because you provided the experience that they enjoy in a place they love to be. And now they grow with this and it becomes part of like,
and they support other people and help you keep them accountable and help motivate them. I love that. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's such an awesome place to be. And I think that is what the CrossFits of the world and the boot camps have done such a good job of, is getting people to support one another. We're one team. Yeah. We're one team. And that's how everybody views it. And I'll go back to what you were saying in a moment, but I just think of another component that another client had brought up, which is she's like, her name's Lauren, and Lauren makes her way around to all the different classes, right? She's been at every time because her schedule could be all over the place. And so she could be at 5:30 one morning, she could be at 3:30 in the afternoon the next, and whatever. But the point is, she brought it to our attention. She goes, every class has its own personality. and she's been in classes where she looks at somebody, she goes, yeah, you shouldn't be at this time. You should probably be at the 9:45. She doesn't say it to them, but she knows because she sees the personality of each group. So the group itself becomes its own personality. That becomes
its own culture. It's so weird.
It's 100% culture. We have people who have become like great friends. We have some who've gone on vacation together. We have a group that they go and do Spartan races together.
So cool.
I mean, it's awesome to see. And like each group has their own thing. It's really cool. So anyway, I digress.
I love that.
To get back to how they're running the session itself, a lot of it is, directing people where they're going next. And then it's just keeping them in step with the routine. So as I said, we're going around, we are setting the equipment for each person. We are setting their weight loads, and then we're starting the set and then making adjustments along the way. If it's a class where it's one trainer, 4 people, that trainer is to some degree playing that center field position, but still making their way around to everybody to make sure that they provide some level of personal instruction. And we just always we always talk about a 1-to-1 ratio. And what I mean by that is like a 1-to-1 ratio of instruction to encouragement. So we recognize that as the instructor, your job is not just to instruct, but you are there to also encourage, because it is a class. People are looking for that energy. One of our 3 uniques is high vibe. Like we are all about that high vibe experience. And that's what we want people feeling. So you're not going to be in there and just instructing. And I just want to to just say one thing, I think it's important, especially for the high intensity training audience, because I recognize that a lot of instructors can be somewhat quiet in their instruction, and maybe they're not like the rah-rah type, and that's okay too. We have instructors who are not that. You don't need to be rah-rah, Susie spin instructor in the middle of the room, but encouragement comes from providing positive feedback. It comes from just, trying people to maximize their effort and put their best foot forward. And you don't have to be the person in the middle of the room screaming with pom-poms to do that. So we, across all of our studios, we have multiple, as any studio would, multiple personality types. And, that also ties into this as well, where you have clients who they may enjoy being in a certain trainer's class better than others. And that's okay. Cool. Whatever's fit for you. We just want you to have a great experience. Like that's the end game. But what the instructors are doing is always the same. They're always encouraging. They're always instructing. They're always moving around. We talk a lot about the flow, and they're keeping the flow of that session as fluid as possible. And there are things to manage because you do have different personality types, fitness levels, capability levels. And so with that, you have to recognize where somebody could be, a certain client may throw off the flow because they require more individualized attention. So we just do a lot of training of trainers on how do you deal with those situations. There is no perfect science to it. It's something that is we're constantly trying to up level our abilities as this hybrid type of trainer, because I feel like that's what we are at Pure Physique. We are hybrid trainers. You can't be just the big group instructor, and you can't be just the one-on-one personal trainer. You have to be some combination of them both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Mike. I want to be respectful of your time because I know we're at the end of our time together here. There's so much more I could ask you, but I have to wait for another time. Do you want to just quickly mention to the audience how they can learn about the Pure Physique franchise? Obviously, the franchise opportunity that you have, where if they're interested in buying into your business model that you've described so well and powerfully today, how do they do that?
The first and easiest step would be to go to purephysique.com. There is a tab that says Own a Pure. And we are also hosting a franchise discovery day, November 4th here in New York. So if anybody wants to travel in, you are more than welcome. We're going to be going to one of our franchise facilities, giving people an opportunity to experience what our group training is like. And then we're going to go through the entire business presentation regarding this, and then opportunities to speak with myself, Corey Beth, our other owners and leadership team. But the franchise itself, like I said, we are gearing it predominantly around this group training model. We have people who are high intensity enthusiasts who are expressing interest. We've had trainers who've become owners. A lot of it is based around our culture. It's not necessarily just about, coming in because you like group training. I mean, if you like group training or it's something that you want to explore, that's awesome. If you're looking for a hit business, that's awesome, because we're all of those things. But it's really about the culture at the end of the day. I mean, we want to bring some element of high intensity training to the masses. I mean, that is our end goal. But we also want to make it easy for people to do that. So we've created this model so that somebody can service a nice volume of people, but still run a very lean business. So this is not a model that is geared for the person who is intending on managing multiple trainers. And by multiple, I mean having 5 or more trainers on staff. I mean, the model is designed so that you as an individual could run it on your own with one other trainer, or in the ideal scenario, there's at least 2 other or 3 other trainers in total, and you as the owner. So that just makes it very easy so that we can have 2 instructors available at each shift. it makes the business run nice and it flows really well. And it provides that opportunity to continue to scale, but without having to add more into the business, which I have always found to be, the most challenging aspect of running a personal training facility, is that in order to grow, we had to add more employees, which adds more overhead. And, I wanted to make things nice and lean. And so that's what we've done with this model. So for anybody who is, say, in a position where they want to get into personal training, or maybe they're a personal trainer who's looking to expand their business or go in a different direction, but is concerned about having to manage a big business or manage a large team, this is a really nice model that fits in there. And no, it's not necessarily going to make you a $1 million personal training studio, but it's going to have really great margins, and it's going to be a very nice lifestyle business for you.
And do you know the exact dates for the Discovery Day?
The Discovery Day is specifically going to be on Friday, November 4th.
Okay, got it. And you've already given the URL there where they can find out more about that day and actually get registered if they're interested. Yeah.
Yeah, they can just plug their information into the form, and we'll have somebody reach out to them, provide details. And typically, we're meeting even before the Discovery Day, just to even discuss if it's a viable option or the right option for them.
It's purephysique.com, is it? Is that the first place? Yep. Great. Cool. And also to mention, if you are interested in the thinking and principles and the science and all of that goes into these group training workouts, and obviously, determines the programming and the workout templates and the design, all of that, then you should check out the IART, which is for basically advanced personal training courses for those who are interested in developing personal training skills in themselves and their team. And so obviously this is very much what that, and I'm sure lots of other stuff that Mike has consumed over the years, has really helped inform their training programming. And you can find out all about that over on highintensitybusiness.com/IART. And that's it, Mike. So thanks again so much for coming on the show. And for everyone listening, to find the blog post for this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com and just search for episode 388. Until next time, thank you very much for listening. This episode is brought to you by Strength Portal. You need a single software platform that enables your trainers to deliver consistent, high-quality workouts, track client progress, and scale your business. The problem is you're still using pen and paper or basic spreadsheets to run your business, which leads to poor client experiences, inaccurate tracking, and prevents you from growing your business, making you feel frustrated. Strength Portal understand your challenge and have worked closely with the HIIT industry to create a software platform to manage and scale your niche business. You can integrate with MindBody, manage a standardized exercise and workout library for your team, track workouts effectively, and produce client reports at the click of a button. Strength Portal is used by multiple businesses in the high-intensity strength training community, namely Discover Strength, Smart Strength Austin, MedX Precision Fitness, and more. Starting with Strength Portal is super simple. Number 1, sign up for the best package for your business. Number 2, let Strength Portal take the load off and help onboard your business onto the platform. And number 3, start delivering consistent workout experiences and scale your business to the next level. To help support the podcast, please go to strengthportal.com/high-intensity-business and sign up now, so you can stop feeling frustrated about your business and start to scale your business to its true potential. Go to strengthportal.com/high-intensity-business.